Hello and welcome. Today we've got something special for you. So sit down, stick around, and enjoy.
Hello and welcome to another 101 class. Today, it's all about the man, the DC man, my favorite DC hero, the Green Lantern. So sit down, stick around, and enjoy. So before I get into the nitty-gritty of the Green Lantern here, I'm just going to start off just by saying this is the official 101 of the Green Lantern, not only, but of Hal Jordan. The Green Lantern as a character has existed since the 1940s. He was named Alan Scott back then. And yeah, I don't really care about that Green Lantern. What happened is during the 50s, DC was asked to relaunch Green Lantern under a new Green Lantern, and then this is where we started with Hal Jordan. And this is where I'm going to start this 101, because this 101 is basically on the Green Lantern as I know it, as I've read it during the years, as most people know it today. Yeah, notice the green of my jersey, my Mark Sanchez jersey. So yeah, I had to put this in here because it's green. But the Green Lantern gonna make you green. So anyways, so the way it works is that the Green Lantern first appeared, as we know him as Hal Jordan, in 1959 in Showcase Comics. And it's pretty much the story of a alien that lands on Earth, Abin Sur, and he has the power of the Green Lantern. And then this Hal Jordan character, who is a test pilot, he gets pulled in by Abin Sur telepathically through mystical powers to his landed spaceship, and basically reveals the power of the Green Lanterns to him. Now, Abin Sur is dying, so he needs to find somebody to replace him as a Green Lantern. So he picks Hal Jordan, because Hal Jordan is a man without fear. And actually this is well portrayed in the DC Universe 2-pack with Abin Sur and Hal Jordan here, as you can see. Awesome. So basically, this guy, Abin Sur, dying alien, Green Lantern, gives his power ring and the little lantern to Hal Jordan, and he becomes a new Green Lantern. It's kind of funny because if you read that issue, I know it's a 50s comic, but regardless, if you read that, when Abin Sur is actually scanning with his ring Green Lantern's memory and makeup and all that, he looks really evil. Like seriously, like Abin Sur looks like a villain himself. He's almost like Sinestro-ish. It's kind of funny. But anyway, so he picks the new Green Lantern to take over his place because the ring led him to him, and it's Hal Jordan. So Hal Jordan becomes the new Green Lantern. Another funny note from that issue is that, you know, Hal Jordan hides the spaceship and all that, you know, so nobody knows an alien landed and all that stuff. But he actually takes the dead spaceman suit and puts it on. So yeah, so Hal Jordan says, you know what? I like this guy's clothes. The dead alien's clothes. I'm going to put those clothes on. So I always found that kind of funny that Hal Jordan would actually take Abin Sur's suit and put it on, you know, after he died in it and shit. Didn't even wash it. Just put it right on. It's kind of eerie. I don't know. It's the 50s, but, you know, anyways. Subsequently, the ring later on would kind of make the suit in some instances and that. So I mean, either way, regardless. So what is a Green Lantern? An alien lands on Earth, gives this green power ring to Hal Jordan. The power ring that he puts on lets him control a whole bunch of different mystical powers, which pretty much, it kind of conforms to what he thinks. If he thinks about a big hammer, the ring can create a big green hammer. It can create a whole bunch of things. It can give him the power to fly. All kinds of stuff. It basically bends to the will of the individual using the ring. And that's why it's important to have somebody without fear to use the ring. So that's pretty much how Green Lantern comes into existence. He'll later on meet with who are called the Guardians, the group The Guardians. They're those little guys, blue, white hair, red robes. Those are the Guardians, and they're kind of the cosmic defenders of the universe. And he'll learn that there are Green Lanterns in a whole bunch of different places. Not only Earth. Hal Jordan is selected Green Lantern of Earth. But there are actually Green Lanterns in other sectors all over the galaxy. And they all have power rings, and they all have those little green lanterns to charge their power rings with. And subsequently, the lantern has to be charged from this central battery, which is where the Guardians are, and they have the central battery. You go there, you fill up your little lantern, come back to Earth, and then once in a while you charge your ring using the lantern. When the lantern runs out, you go back out to outer space, to the world of OA, and you get more juice. It's pretty much the way it works. We'll later on meet Hal Jordan's ultimate nemesis, which is Sinestro. And I'm not going to talk too much about Sinestro, but Sinestro is actually a rogue Green Lantern. He was a Green Lantern once. He had the power ring, the lantern, the whole thing. He was the champion of his world until slowly but surely he was corrupted by power and started using the ring for things that the Guardians didn't approve of. Things that had no bearing on helping people, but only to help himself. So they stripped him of his Green Lantern title, stripped him of the ring, and then he became a rogue, crazy nut that is hell-bent on destroying all the Green Lanterns and the whole Green Lantern Corps. So that's pretty much what Sinestro does. The Green Lantern will go through a whole bunch of different eras. I mean, through life, Hal Jordan will have a whole bunch of trials and tribulations, you know. He's defending the Earth, defending Coast City. He'll join the JLA, you know, the Justice League of America, with Superman, Batman, Flash, Wonder Woman. So he has a huge, important role to play in the DC Universe. It's also cool to note that, like, on a comic book stand, you know, like, not like through the story, but just comic book-wise, that he will have a long team-up with Green Arrow, and they'll bring up a lot of social issues, too, during the 70s. And this comic will be well-acclaimed by a lot of people. And a lot of groups that are usually lobbyists against comics, just because it, you know, it brings a social message in there, and so yeah, it's just pretty interesting. Green Lantern later on, though, I find that during the 80s and all that was kind of bland. The character was there doing stuff, but no huge storylines were happening until about 1994. What happened in '94 for the Green Lantern is that, well, Batman was getting off Nightfall, which was huge. Superman was getting off the death of Superman, and we're into the reign of Superman, and that was huge. So they need to do something with Green Lantern to spice it up and get readers to read it. Just like they did originally after the 40s, they reinvented the character. Well, they kind of thought, well, it's time that we do this again too. Now, there are already other Earth Green Lanterns that are in existence other than Hal Jordan. You've got Guy Gardner, which is, you know, semi-cool. I don't mind him. There's John Stewart that I don't like at all. Just because, I don't know, I find the character very bland. I don't know, I don't know, it's just me. Kind of condescending too. But, yeah. So, I don't mind Gardner, but I'm not a big fan. I like Hal. And then what happened in 1994 is that DC decided, okay, we gotta revamp this again. And they created a story arc, which was called Emerald Twilight, which ran here. From issue 48, 49, and 50 of the, what's actually the third volume of Green Lantern at this point. What happened during Emerald Twilight was huge. Basically what they did is they took the hero, Hal Jordan, the people that everybody loved, that I love, that a whole bunch of other people love. They pretty much made him go crazy. They took his city, his hometown, Coast City, and they totally eradicated it. They destroyed it. The Mongol was involved in the destruction. What happened was, by destroying Coast City, I'll show you the cover here. By destroying Coast City, Hal Jordan kind of flips out. So what he does is he tries to bring back Coast City using the power of the ring. Which, if you remember what I just said earlier, what Sinestro tried to do when he used the ring, you know, for his own purposes, is a big no-no. So the Guardians got pissed off after Hal Jordan. And they ordered him to go back to their world O and to face trial. Hal Jordan, not excited about this, turned Looney Tunes. And subsequently started killing Green Lanterns. Killing everybody who stood in his way. Taking all their power rings, becoming this ultimate Green Lantern. which is kind of what you see here. Hal Jordan with all the nice power rings on his fingers, going totally nuts. And subsequently leading into the issue 50, in which Hal Jordan is supposedly killed. And we have a new Green Lantern. One of the Guardians is left. The other ones have all perished. He goes back to Earth, gives the last power ring to a man named Kal Rayner. And then Kal Rayner subsequently, in these other issues here, will become the new Green Lantern. It's a rebirth of the Green Lantern. I think it's important to note here, that's pretty much what we knew when we were reading it back then. We didn't know the backstory to this until it started coming out years later. That actually, that Hal Jordan would want to save Coast City. He was actually infected by a entity, a sort of like parasite, if you will, called Parallax, which is what Hal Jordan, aka Green Lantern, called himself in issue 50, was the Parallax, which was actually trapped inside of the battery, the big Green Lantern battery, on the world of the Guardians. It got out when he sucked that battery dry, and so he was infected by it. And he became Parallax and then started doing all this bad stuff. Subsequently, we didn't know this. All we knew is that Hal Jordan went nuts and was killed afterwards. And that he killed Sinestro as well. Later on, we'll learn that Sinestro wasn't really killed or anything like that. And Kal Rayner basically rectified everything, the new Green Lantern, into bringing everything back to the way it was. So I guess at the time, I remember reading this. And although I did like Kal Rayner, he was cool. I was kind of pissed off that they took Hal Jordan, all this noble man without fear for all these years, and just like flat, like in 3 issues, like totally destroyed the character and killed him off. Like it was just insane. But then with Jeff Johns and all that at DC, what they did is they brought him back. They basically made Hal Jordan's spirit become the Spectre, and then later on, the Spectre, Hal Jordan, would purge Parallax, and then join his body again, and then become Green Lantern once again, and basically righting all the wrongs, because he never really, killed the people and did everything that he did as Parallax. Parallax was the one in control. Hal Jordan was just a body, a puppet for him. So they kind of brought him back as a good guy, as the man he should have been, and explained the whole Parallax thing. And what's important now is that Parallax and Sinestro are kind of like, they're kind of like buddy-buddy, I guess, for the time, because it created what was called the Yellow Lanterns when all this fell. Sinestro, and then they created the power rings, the yellow power rings, because of the power of Parallax, which is yellow. And so they became the Yellow Lanterns, the Sinestro group. So the Sinestro Corps. And then subsequently you got all these other lanterns coming out. Blue lanterns, red lanterns, orange lanterns, green clovers, blue mushrooms. It's like Lucky Charms. But it's actually made the story a lot more interesting to have all these different subgroups of Green Lanterns that are different colors, that are known as, whatever color they are, lanterns. And the Black Lantern, which is, the recent thing with Blackest Night that's going on out there. And we actually see a return of Parallax in Green Lantern issue 50 of the new series of Volume 4. So it took from one of the 50s to the other 50 that we see back Parallax, which is interesting. I'll talk more about that during the Blackest Night 102 when that comes out. So to recap, Green Lantern, Hal Jordan, man without fear, pilot, comes across a dying alien with a power ring. Takes the power ring as it is given to him by the alien, he becomes a Green Lantern, and subsequently battles evil on Earth. Major enemy, Sinestro, leader of what is now the Yellow Lantern Corps. For the longest time, we were led to believe that the Green Lantern, the green ring, could not affect the color yellow. If it would try to attack or defeat or something in a color yellow, it wouldn't work. And that was a huge thing in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, whereas villains were dressed in yellow in order to try to stop the ring. Subsequently, we learned that there was never really a aversion to the color yellow. It's the fact that Parallax, which represented the color yellow, was inside the power lantern, causing the impurity. So once Parallax got out of the major battery, the central battery I should say, once he got out of it, then the yellow impurity didn't happen anymore. So the rings could be used on yellow. And it would kind of suck if the rings couldn't be used on yellow because Sinestro runs the yellow course. And yeah, you kind of need to run against yellow if yellow is your major villain. So, I guess that's pretty much it for this Green Lantern 101. So remember, Hal Jordan, the greatest Green Lantern ever. Kal Rayner, the man who took over the mantle when Jordan went AWOL, would be, in my opinion, a close second. There are Green Lanterns all over the universe. Some other my favorites include Kilowog, which is like the big brute of the Green Lantern Corps, so he's awesome as well. So if you have a comment, question, anything, leave it here. And actually I should mention this too. One of the indigo lanterns, I believe it's indigo, or purple, no, purple lanterns, the love color lanterns, is actually one of Hal Jordan's old girlfriends. Yeah. So yeah, he had a love life, Carol Ferris and stuff. The man's a player. So until next time, guys, take care. Later.